Hi, Christina.
Hi, Latia.
Hello, this is Christina. You have unmuted me.
Hi, good. Good afternoon. We were just making sure that we could unmute properly. Are you still unmuted, Christina? And Jasmine,
yes, I am.
too? Okay, great. Jasmine, you are unmuted as well?
Yes, if you can hear me, I am.
Great. Okay, great. Are there going to be any other folks that we need to unmute?
I believe that's it.
So no one from Blue Cross Blue Shield?
Correct. We're good with the Love is Respect Break the Cycle staff.
Awesome. All right, thank you, folks. Jasmine, I am going to pass the slides baton to you, and then you will have the ability to switch over to the webinar slides when you start, okay?
Thank you.
No problem. All righty, well, I'm going to mute myself now, and then in a couple of minutes check in with everyone, and then we'll probably start a few minutes after 1 just to make sure that folks have a chance to log in. Cool?
Erin Weiss?
Janet Berry.
Maria?
Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Kelly Hampton from Break the Cycle. We are going to be starting our webinar in just a few minutes to allow a few more folks to join. One, you all should be muted upon entry, but if for some reason you are not, you can hit *6 on your phone to put yourself on mute, or just the mute button on your own phone system. Thank you, and we will start in just a few minutes. All right. Good afternoon and welcome again. My name is Kelly Hampton and I'm the Program Manager of our Training and Technical Assistance team here at Break the Cycle in our Washington, D.C. office. I am very glad to be here with you all this afternoon to introduce today's webinar about the new Start Talking Prevention Program. I am also joined by Christina Escobar from Love is Respect and our partners from Blue Cross Blue Shield. Welcome, everyone. Before we jump into the substance of our webinar today, I will briefly go over some logistics for the webinar and then turn it over to today's speaker, Jasmine Ceja. If you are disconnected from the webinar at any time, please go back to the original email you received from iLink, click on the Join link again to log back in. If you have any problems getting back on the webinar, please call iLink support at 1-800-799-4510, and that number is showing on your screen now. If you happen to only be on the audio portion of the webinar, you can email us me at khampton@breakthecycle.org if you have any trouble or questions. Or you can also private chat me, Kelly Hampton, and I can assist you. Everyone should be muted on today's call, so please use the chat box to contribute. You can find the chat box on the lower left-hand corner of your screen. And we have asked for you all to please chat in there now where you are from, and who you are and where you're from. We will have time for questions at the end of this webinar, but if questions pop up for you during the webinar, please feel free to type your questions into the chat box and we will do our best to answer them. We will be sending out the PowerPoint slides to today's webinar as well as the link to the recording after the webinar, so don't worry if you miss something. All right, today's webinar speaker is Jasmine Ceja, the National Youth Organizing Manager with Break the Cycle. I will now turn it over to you, Jasmine.
Great. Thank you, Kelly. So as Kelly mentioned, I'm so excited to have you all on the webinar and so excited to discuss a little bit more about our Start Talking curriculum. So let me just go ahead and move these slides over. Okay, so let's start off with learning a little bit more about who we are. So Love is Respect is the partnership between Break the Cycle and the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Together, we work with young people all across the country. Break the Cycle brings, our support, education resources, and we're really working towards creating that culture free from abuse and inspiring young people to take action. The hotline provides our life-saving tools directly. We have a hotline where young people can access services via text message, online chat, and the traditional phone, as many of us are used to. So here's a little bit more about who we are. In order to bring these amazing campaigns to the community, we work together with amazing partners and funders, and you probably may recognize some of these logos, but I'll just share briefly. So we have Love is Respect working with Healthcare Service Corporation, which is the country's largest customer-owned health insurer, and they have about 13 million members in its Blue Cross and Blue Shield plans of Illinois, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. So many of you are familiar with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and because of their amazing support, we are able to bring this campaign and curriculum to your community. You may also recognize Healthy Kids, Healthy Families. It is a 3-year initiative designed all to improve the health and wellness of about 1 million children through community investments that HCSC and Blue Cross Blue Shield works towards. So we have a lot of great support, and just you may not be familiar, but Be Smart, Be Well is an award-winning website. They have videos, expert videos, also young survivors talking. We actually partnered with them to have our National Youth Advisory Board members speak out and define what love is. So if you're interested in seeing some pretty amazing videos and awesome members of our Youth Advisory Board speaking on the issue, you can go to besmartbewell.com. Okay, so a little bit more about the campaign. So through the Start Talking campaign, we are working to bring, like I said, a lot of awareness on the issue of dating abuse, but more so inspiring young people to take a stand and talk out about what healthy relationships are. So the campaign provides you and your community members, we're creating 1,000 Start Talking kits that include the curriculum workbooks, some posters, palm cards, and materials for you to create awareness. The kits are free, and they're available to school, youth programs, service providers in the 4 states, Illinois, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. The goal of the partnership overall, I think I can repeat this a million times, is to inspire young people to start those conversations. Many times they get a lot of resources and information, but they don't have the tools to take it beyond the classroom. And that's what this campaign is really focusing on. So we're training over about 450 peer leaders. And by peer leaders, I mean young activists in the classroom. So these are high school age students who are working directly with facilitators. This could be a teacher or a service provider, an adult service provider, to bring the conversation to their peers. So we're connecting young people in abusive relationships to immediate help at Love is Respect. So all of our campaign will direct them to that text, chat, and call service that is available 24/7. Following that peer leader approach, we have peer advocates available to answer questions at Love is Respect as well. So I wanted to make sure that we are all on the same page, and I kind of give that brief definition of what is dating abuse. So I think dating abuse or dating violence is something new still. A lot of young people realize that it may be happening, but most people traditionally go by the definition of domestic violence. But when we talk to teens and young people, we really try to make sure that we're explaining to them that dating abuse is that pattern of abusive behaviors, and the number one telltale sign is when a partner is exerting power and control. So here you'll see an image from our power control wheel that is on Love is Respect. And one example that I made sure to put in there is the topic of isolation. So when we talk about abuse, we know the general types. It could be physical, verbal, emotional, sexual, but there's also digital abuse. So that is when technology is being used to, once again, overpower or control a dating partner. And we'll be mentioning technology a lot throughout the webinar. It is also something that we use through the curriculum and campaign, because we know we got to reach teens where they are. If we want to make sure that they're hearing the message, we got to make sure we're using the outlets that they're seeing every day. So technology can be used for good, but in relationships, it's also another outlet for someone to harm their partner. So I'm not going to go into too many details, but like I said, the types of abuse: physical, sexual, verbal, emotional, and digital. Those are the 4 that we focus on throughout the curriculum. So going into making sure that we're all on the same page, I wanted to talk a little bit more about teen perspective or young people. So generally, Break the Cycle and Love is Respect, we focus on the age demographic of 12 to 24. So that's middle school, high school, and college youth. But we know that anyone can hear this information and impact a friend, a family member, and make sure that everyone knows that they deserve a healthy relationship. So when I go into the classroom, or if I'm going to give an assembly presentation in the community, it always interests me how teens see abuse. So the first one is they may know the definition of dating abuse, but the behaviors that they think apply into these dating abuse situations are not what we know. So for example, they may see playing around and being physically abusive as totally okay. So that's the second box, where it's acceptable based on context. One study was showing that with a group of 6th grade students, over half of the respondents said that girls hitting their boyfriends was acceptable. So we do have to have a lot of conversations about those gender biases, and is it wrong if a girlfriend hits their boyfriend? And it absolutely is. No matter where you're from, your race, gender, that is not okay. Abuse is not, it should not be allowed in relationships, and it's definitely something that we frame as unhealthy behavior. So going into the third box, when we talk about teens or young people, we know that day in and day out they're using technology. Probably from the moment they wake up, before they even start picking out their outfit, they're checking their phones to see what's happening on Facebook. What did they miss? So dating abuse is a serious problem, and surprisingly, I think for some of us, we may think that teens don't take it as seriously or realize that digital abuse can happen, but they do. They know when we're talking about the types of abuse, they know that dating abuse or cyberbullying, as sometimes I hear, happens probably more so than they think they see physical abuse. But digital abuse is another outlet, and what makes it, I think, extra scary for adults and professionals is that this is allowing an abusive partner or partner in general to have 24/7 access to their boyfriend or girlfriend. So this also is another way where they can be abusing someone through technology, and their parents may not even see it. So I always bring up digital abuse in the form of text messages, posting things on social media, Facebook, Instagram, harassing through social media. So all of that is a serious problem, and we got to remember that the underlying issue is that going back to that definition of dating abuse, the power and the control. So something that I wanted to talk about is going back to the context. A lot of times young people that I work with is they feel that if you're jealous in a relationship, that means that you have a super healthy relationship and it shows that you really, really love your partner. But when I really get to talking with them is, where does jealousy come from? We know that jealousy is a natural emotion, and you may feel jealous because you're worried about several things, but jealousy speaks more to our insecurities and our lack of trust, and that is something that I feel young people have a hard time understanding. They feel like, well, if I'm in a relationship, that means that you need to show me your cell phone. You're not allowed to talk to anybody. So they define it by context, as I said. So if jealousy is in a relationship, totally okay. If girls are, be physically aggressive or abusing the boyfriend, well, that's not as serious. So we have a lot of myths that we need to work through. I just wanted to give you the team perspective. I'm sure many of you in your work with the young people in your community have heard some of these statements. It's okay, if a girl is abusive, that's not really abuse. Or if there's a group of guys and they're talking with their friends, sometimes I speak to our groups with young men only, and they're like, well, if my guy friend came up and said that he was being abused, I would just laugh. So there's a lot of those myths and challenges that we need to work through. So just to give you a quick glance into the teen lens. So going back to technology, here's a few statistics. I think the one that shocked me the most was that 1 in 10 teens reported being threatened physically via email, IM, text, or chat. That's a lot. And again, because technology for the most part is not as easily to monitor as face-to-face communication, parents may be missing this or not seeing the text messages if their children are deleting the messages. So it's very important to have the conversation that if someone is even threatening you, not in person, if it's just a text message, it's still a threat and it should still be taken seriously. Another one is that 1 in 4 teens have reported they've been called or harassed. So this just goes to show you that verbal and emotional abuse can transfer to technology as well. And then I talked about the 5 W's. So those text messages, when I'm talking to teens about, looking out for those warning signs. If someone is constantly having you check in, making sure that you tell them where you are all the time, or they're sending you messages like, where are you, who are you with, what are you doing, all those W questions, that's more of a sign of someone trying to control you, more than just genuinely being interested in your well-being. So that's another thing that we talk a lot about in the classrooms and in our groups. So going on to talking all about our new innovative prevention resource. The reason why we say it's innovative because it's the first available web-based program of its kind. So you'll get the manuals, the printed manuals to go by. It has scripts, it has facilitator scripts, so these are adult leaders, and also peer leader scripts. So for every classroom or group, we have 1 adult facilitator for 2 peer leaders. So these are students in the classroom, these are activists in the community who are working with adults to lead these discussions. And the reason why that is so important is because we know that when adults are talking to teens, the information is sometimes not as relatable. But if a friend is coming up and talking to them, those are normally the first people they do ask for help. So when we talk about celebrities, pop culture, technology, it's really great to have that peer ally in the classroom. So the web-based curriculum, you'll have your printed manuals, as I said, but there's also a platform which we call our web app, where it's similar to a PowerPoint slide, where videos, quizzes, slideshows will be uploaded for you to use to supplement the workbook that you have, the printed manual. So it uses a lot of tools that we have on our website, like our relationship spectrum, which is a great activity which gets young people to identify relationships on a spectrum from healthy, unhealthy, to abusive. So it's a quick quiz kind of setting where they get little prompts and they have to identify, well, where does this fall on the spectrum? Because we know relationships aren't black and white. Sometimes an argument they may see as just unhealthy. Well, we just screamed it a little, remember, defining it by context. But then going over, it can go over the line to where it got physically aggressive. And that's kind of what we're trying to get them to understand, that relationships, healthy relationships are healthy. Unhealthy relationships include more of those warning signs, and they have to define for themselves what is that boundary. So one thing that you will need if you are planning to use this prevention resource is reliable internet connection, because the images and the videos are through the web app. So on the website, it talks more about the specific requirements. I know that we've been working very hard to make sure that we are considerate of firewalls that certain school districts have, and we have the videos through our server, so YouTube shouldn't be an issue, but just in case, we always have a support line in case any videos aren't working. But it is really awesome, and I'm going to continue to talk about it. I'm going to go into the next slide. I'm going to pause, but if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the public chat box. If not, I'll make sure to have some time to address those questions after the presentation. Okay. So curriculum structure. So the way we have it built into 40-minute sessions. We know that a general class period is probably about 55 minutes to 60 minutes, some even longer. But based on the attention span and the amount of information we have, we want to make sure that this is not just a lecture, it's really interactive. So it's a 40-minute discussion and interactive session. So the first 6 sessions are all about educating them on the types of abuse, expanding on what those types of abuse are, what is healthy, what is unhealthy, making sure we're giving them the tools to develop healthy relationships. And we also discuss media influence and media literacy. So when we watch that show and we see that couple on that show arguing and they're, displaying unhealthy behaviors, how does that influence, teens' ideas of relationships? And we'll answer that question in a little bit. The next session, sessions 7 through 10, so the second half of the Start Talking program, is built on service learning activities. And we're really introducing what we're calling the Ultimate Advocate Challenge. So this is where we're tasking young people to not only hear the information, but to pay it forward and do something with this, do something in an awareness setting. So we have a few different activities that I'll outline in a minute, where they can participate and bring in their community to take a stand and say, you know what, we're going to start talking about healthy relationships. We're taking a stand. We want to make sure that everyone in our community, in our school, knows how to build those healthy relationships. And that's the goal, not only to educate them on what dating abuse is and how to get out of these situations safely, but to give them healthy alternatives so they can create healthier relationships in the future. So again, web-based, that's very important for us. And these images on the right are actual snapshots of what the web-based curriculum looks like. So you'll see at the bottom right-hand corner, there's a next and a previous button, and this is the relationship spectrum tool I was discussing. And on the top right, there's videos. So you would click through everything through the web app. You wouldn't have to go to another internet page. It's all here in one spot. Like I said, 2 peer leaders are required, and there are alternating scripts throughout the handbook for the teacher and the 2 peer leaders. So when we were creating this curriculum, we did a lot of, we piloted, we were making sure that we knew that the information we were giving out and our approach worked. And one thing that we found was after investigation, the curriculum does meet health standards for the 4 states. It really talks all about providing information, talking about healthy relationships, and giving them the tools to have overall healthy lives. So it does, and we do have documents to support that, and they are on the CD-ROM, which also comes with the curriculum. It has supplemental documents talking about service learning and the health standards. So we knew that in order for us to kind of say that this works with teens, we had to ask young people how they felt about the curriculum. So here in Los Angeles, we did several mini pilot versions of the curriculum, and we got a lot of feedback about what works, how to talk about things. Even myself, who I'm constantly going and working with young people, there's something new every day. And that's the reason why we wanted to have it web-based, because it gives us the opportunity to always change the content. We reference, MTV shows like Jersey Shore, but I know probably next season there's going to be another exciting show that we're going to have to change up. So having that flexibility with the web app is very important. And then our third theory was that we know that we need to give teens kind of a task to create more awareness, and this really gives them the sense of being inspired and empowered to make change. For a lot of young people, they don't necessarily see that they can make a difference for themselves, or maybe they feel that, my relationships are perfect, I don't need the help. But, I always approach it as, okay, maybe you don't need this information, but wouldn't you like to see, later in the years, a community where healthy relationships are the norm? We can talk openly, about what we expect in relationships without fear of being ridiculed or being put down. So this is just our overall approach. We really are trying to put youth forward and making sure they have the tools to continue having these conversations. We know that teens probably speak to their peers more than parents or adults, so it's so important that the peers have the correct answers and healthy relationships in mind, so when you're going to your friend and saying, hey, this is going on, a peer advocate can be like, well, this is not okay, this is not normal, let's get help. It's a little different when your friend is telling you in high school versus a counselor, a teacher, or a parent. And I'm sure we all remember to be in that age where our friend's word was probably more true than a professional, even if we knew they were wrong. Going back to talk about working with youth. So I underline with because I think we often get trainings, or I always get the question of how do I talk to my teen, or how do I work with teens? And when we're doing these presentations with the Start Talking curriculum, you shouldn't be talking to them, but you should be including them in the conversation. So you're really uniting all the voices. So we want to activate youth leadership so they can continue to grow beyond the classroom or beyond your youth group. And we want them to understand that there's a great impact by speaking with their peers. Now, I keep repeating this. They're normally the first people they go to ask for help, so why not prepare friends to give that healthy information and not stick to those stereotypes of jealousy is totally okay, how bad was that incident of physical abuse, you don't have a bruise. Like, that's what we're trying to go and make sure that doesn't happen, that they understand that regardless of how intense physical abuse may be, it's still crossing a boundary, and that's unhealthy. So we want to make sure that we're building accountability and responsibility not only with our peer leaders within the classroom, but also in the greater community. So when we have a traditional setting where there isn't a professional or a teacher talking to teens, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, you're giving me a lot of information, but what does it mean for me? So we can tie it into a community effort that youth voice is really activated and valid. So like I mentioned, throughout the curriculum, we do reference shows from MTV, from Lifetime, celebrities, pop culture. So it's kind of the opportunity to bring a celebrity idol that they see to the classroom without physically having that celebrity there. Just by starting the conversation, that's what they're going to remember. They're going to remember that you talked about their favorite show and the next time they go back and watch that show, they might see it in a different lens. We also work with youth to talk about music and pop culture and videos as well. So I can't stress enough how important it is to understand the impact that young people have in leading the discussion. During sessions 1 through 6, they're really participating with the adult facilitator, but through sessions 7 and 10, they're taking that active role to make sure that the Ultimate Advocate Challenge is completed on their campus. And I'll talk a little bit more about that challenge and what it means. So to take a little bit of a break, I just was hoping that you all could answer these questions in the chat box. So the first question, why does pop culture have a big influence on what teens think? So if you want to go ahead and put in your answers, then I'll use that for the presentation. And the second question we always ask, and we're going to target in the next slides, is how can we use media and pop culture to benefit our work? So the first question I had was, okay, why does it influence teens? And then the second box, how can I use it to my benefit? If I know that that's where they're going to, how can I use it? So feel free to type in your answers. Okay. Okay, cool. So Julia said that that's how they use it to kind of determine what's normal and cool. Okay, so we always want to try to be relatable, and I always remember a Glee episode I watched where I think it was Gwyneth Paltrow dressed up for history class. I'm not saying you have to go in and talk like them, but you should at least know, all the different ways that they define dating abuse or dating in general. Okay, yeah, Joseph, yeah, they are definitely exposed to pop culture, at least more in the world of pop culture than maybe older demographics. We also have to recognize that young people, especially now with the boom of technology, everything's very visual. I go back to when I work with our Youth Advisory Board, Facebook and Twitter have also become too wordy. Even though I think on Twitter you can only put 140 characters, they prefer Instagram, because Instagram, you just post a picture and there's not really any words attached to it. So yes, their pop culture and digital lens is definitely different than older demographics. Yes, also they feel that they can relate to music and actors, and that the artist that is using music is speaking to them or is speaking to a situation that they're going through right at this moment. So these are the reasons why it has a big influence, and what I'm going to do is challenge you all to think about how you can use the media and pop culture to benefit your work or our work. So here's another website screenshot from our web app, and this video is from Lifetime's Reviving Ophelia movie, and we use this video clip to kind of show them, we discuss the types of abuse, but rather than just having a facilitator read off all the different types, it's more visual. So throughout this video, you'll see how the relationship builds up. There's some jealousy, there's some control, and it keeps the conversation current and relatable, and it really sparks their interest when they see a video versus me or an adult facilitator just writing the definitions on the board. It also challenges teens to understand how the media influences their peers. When I asked them the questions I did on the previous slide, like, do you think pop culture influences what you think about relationships? A lot of times I get no. They don't think that what they see or hear is influencing how they act, but it is. We learn a lot through what we see, and we kind of model those behaviors. So I challenge them to understand, like, when you see that show on, I'll use Jersey Shore again, it's probably the one that's in my head the most. When you see them arguing or cussing at each other, does that make it feel okay for you to do that? So I'm really using these as a form of a discussion starter and getting them to really challenge their original thoughts. The great thing about using technology and pop culture is it's always changing. This could be a pro and a con. The way TMZ works or a celebrity news outlet, you literally can get news, you can miss news in your sleep. So I even, I have to admit that when I wake up in the morning, I'm checking my phone to see, what happened, what's the new gossip. So I can always have, or we can always have, a new current topic in your discussion. And I think that's what's so great about the approach to use technology in pop culture, because it can be updated. We can keep it relatable. And one thing I will say is I don't know all of the shows that they watch. I don't have the time to sit and watch maybe 30 different shows that, speak to teens and youth culture, but I do allow them to kind of educate me on a new show that's on, whatever channel. So it's okay if you don't have all the answers. It's actually better to start the conversation if you're letting them kind of impart their knowledge. Okay. So if you have more answers to the questions or anything regarding pop culture, feel free. I'll be scanning those as we move on. So to discuss a little bit more about the web components, so our web app, as we call it, has the direct links, it has the video clips, and access to loveisrespect.org. So on the top left-hand corner of that box, there's the Love is Respect logo. If you find yourself having a conversation and maybe you don't have the answer or you can't put it into words what they're asking about. For example, a lot of times young people will ask me about text messages and sending pictures to your partner, and is that okay? How do I know they're not going to forward it to someone else? If I click that icon, that Love is Respect icon on the top left, it'll take me directly to Love is Respect's website, and you'll be able to read some blogs and find articles. So it's like having backup in the classroom by going through that website. And then on the top right, you'll see that every session has its own number for you to click on. So if you are done with session 2 and then there's spring break and you're going to come back to session 3 after that, you can start right where you started, and it tracks your progress and lets you know how far you've gone. At the end of every session, there's a quick survey, and the reason why we have that is because it allows us to see a quick online evaluation. So I can see on the back end, well, this group from Illinois is already on session 6. And when you complete session 6 and beyond, we will send you more resources. So there's incentives involved to completing all 10 sessions as well. So the slides include direct contact, discussion starters, activities, and polls for online evaluation. So I think that's one of the things that I'm most excited about, because I get that instant feedback. We have an activity called Dating Bill of Rights, where they type in what the class's idea is for a healthy relationship. And for every group that logs in, I can see what they put and what they filled out. So like group A put respect, communication, trust, and love. And group B, put happiness and togetherness. So I can really see that instant feedback, and it helps us to continue to improve the program. So here's the web-based curriculum. And one thing I will say is if you sign up for the toolkit, you get the printed manuals, but you'll also have a unique identifier for the facilitator to go in, log in, and use the curriculum, and also for your peer leaders and your classroom or youth group participants. On the top right-hand corner, you'll see that there's, maybe you can't see it very clearly, but there is a check box, and that's where the online surveys are. So everything is online for the most part for what you need. Okay. So I'm going to go on to the next slide. I think most of the information is on the website if you want to look more into details of the curriculum, and you can also log in through the website itself. So you would log in through the Start Talking Love is Respect / Start Talking. You'll be able to see the toolkit and the web-based curriculum as well. Okay. So I talked all about that Ultimate Advocate Challenge and how important it was for us to make sure that our activities are service learning based, and that young people aren't only hearing the information, but they're starting those conversations online and offline. So throughout sessions 7 through 10, you get introduced to this Ultimate Advocate Challenge. Now, some groups may decide to end after session 6, but we're really hoping that groups continue this service learning because it makes a difference when young people know that they just weren't talked to for 6 sessions, but they're also doing something in their community and taking what they learned in a creative way out into their peer groups or for their parents. So we have 3 groups in the Ultimate Advocate Challenge. The online activists work to get the message out through social media. So there's activities where they learn how to promote healthy relationships, you know, on a Facebook post, doing infographics to post on Instagram, and this is all youth created, and this is where the adults kind of take a step back and just make sure that they're supervising, but it should be youth-led, and the peer leaders are really the leaders in making sure that these tasks are completed, and everything's outlined in the manual. The marketeers focus on creating a campus event. They can invite public speakers, have an awareness activity, and they're really trying to get the message out. So they would also be putting together media alerts, contacting legislators to get people to their event. And when I say event, it could be you know, as basic and simple as a table out during lunch, or something bigger where you're screening movies or their PSAs, and that's what gets me that's what moves me on to the digital crew. So the digital crew is tasked with creating a public service announcement on healthy relationships. So we've had a lot of success with our Love Is kind of campaign that we do, and they fill out talk bubbles and they define what love is. And the whole goal is to promote that love has many definitions, but abuse is not one of them. So at your event, these 3 teams can come together to promote that video that the classroom did. Or in these pictures that you see, it's actual groups that are using Start Talking, and they did a chalking event where basically they were writing messages of love, and they put a few statistics all around their campus. Now, of course, you have to get permission for this. I am not promoting that, you know, destruction of property in any way, so they did get permission from the principal, and they had a few chalk messages written throughout lunch, and they did this as part of their Ultimate Advocate Challenge that they just completed. So we've mentioned a lot about reaching teens where they are. So if you know that there's a student in your class who's very artistic and can edit a video in their sleep, really tap into those resources. A lot of what can be done doesn't take funding for expensive video equipment. On our YouTube page, we have video PSAs that at our training institutes for this curriculum in the fall of 2013, they created short PSAs using their cell phones. So it's something that teens have a lot of resources. I learned about 5 new apps when the young people were doing their PSAs that I didn't even know about. So this doesn't have to be an expensive project. It's just a way, an outlet for them to get the message of healthy relationships out to their community. Okay. So I'm reaching kind of the wrap-ups, and I really want to make sure that we all know that it takes a network to make change. We're stressing the importance of peer leaders and using the youth voice, but we really do need parents to be involved. We need prevention programs and service providers and just the whole network to make sure that we are moving forward, that it's not just a small siloed group, but that it's something impactful for everyone, because our 9th, 10th, 11th graders are only going to be in that grade for about a year, and then they're going to move on to college. But it's worthwhile to set that message and that standard for the community, so when younger elementary school students and middle school students are moving up, they already have that culture where we talk about healthy relationships. We do something every month in February for Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. It kind of builds a standard to create bigger change, and it's something that the young group that you work with today can see years later what impact they had, and that's going to, you know, really do a lot for their personal development and their leadership development. So it's very important for you to get all the key players involved in your efforts to create change. So if that requires, you know, talking to directors, Board of Education, service providers, local universities, whatever it takes, just think about everyone you need to make your program a success. Okay, so talk all about this great resource. and gave you a little brief info to kind of give you an insight on what it is and the details. And I do want to say that this toolkit is available for free in the 4 states. And with the support of Blue Cross and Blue Shield, this is where we're piloting. We're starting it in Illinois, New Mexico, and Oklahoma, and Texas. So if you haven't done so already, or if you want to register for another toolkit for another youth group or another staff member, you can do so online. It's really designed, like we've said, to start the conversation. It's free. You'll have access to the web app. One thing I will note is that your personal login and password for the web app will be emailed after you register. You'll receive promotional materials, palm cards, which are wallet-sized cards that have the 10 warning signs of abuse written on them, as well as where to get help, Love is Respect's text, chat, and call line. You'll have information on when you want to complete the Ultimate Advocate Challenge. We can send you more resources, and you'll have full access to the resources on loveisrespect.org. Okay. So if you go to loveisrespect.org/start-talking, you'll see exactly where to register. And remember, through this campaign, we are distributing 1,000 toolkits, and they have been orders have been placed starting in October. So if you would like to use this kit or just kind of peek into it a little bit more, feel free to order those online. Okay, so I want to make sure that I have time for questions. We have about 15 more minutes. If you have questions about the curriculum or anything I mentioned, or if you'd like me to repeat info, please feel free to add your question into the chat. Thank you, Callie, for responding as those pop up. But I'm going to open the floor for any questions that you may have on the Start Talking curriculum.
Hi, Jasmine. I got a question through the private chat that I wanted to pose, and it was about what is available on the CD-ROM versus what might be available on from the web content.
Yes, thank you. That was on my notes to remind myself, and I completely forgot. So thanks for asking that question. So on the CD-ROM, you'll get a digital copy of both manuals. So in case you need to reprint or you misplace your manual, you'll have a digital copy. You also have some supporting handouts on how, like a getting started guide, what is the service learning process. You have handouts that also need to be printed for some of the activities. So for, we do a buzzer exercise activity where it kind of is, how can I describe this? It's all about raising awareness on digital abuse, but there needs to be a worksheet that they complete. So there's some supplemental materials that need to be printed. What's online is just the visuals for the presentation, and what's on the CD-ROM is everything you need to implement the program. So the CD-ROM does come with a toolkit, and it has, like I said, extra copies of those manuals that are printed for you in spiral bound, but also other handouts that will support the Ultimate Advocate Challenge and the overall success of the program. Okay, I'm scanning through. Give me a second. Are there t-shirts to purchase that have the Love is Respect logo? Currently, we don't have t-shirts, but I'm sure, Christina, we would be happy to discuss if you had funding to create t-shirts and you wanted to use the logo, we could discuss that as well. And let's see. These are coming in at different pace for me, so please excuse the delay. Okay, what kind of activities are community colleges doing that empower what you are talking about? So for our community colleges or our university campuses, they can also participate in our Respect Week that happens every February. One group that I will highlight is the Alpha Chi Omega sorority. They also host a week of raising awareness about healthy relationships. So on college campuses, our youth advisory board members who are also part of these groups. Most of what they do are awareness building events either tabling or group seminars, passing out information. They may not follow this specific structure of having 10 sessions, but I know that there are some professors who teach classes on adolescent development and use a lot of the videos and slides that we have. I hope that answers what college campuses and universities are doing. They are kind of supporting the role of, at least in our programs here in Los Angeles, we go back to universities and colleges to educate and train peer leaders. So that could be another role if you have an organization and it's college students who are maybe freshmen in college coming back and talking to high school students. That may be another alternative to facilitating the program. Okay. So Candy, are there any similar programs? It's bouncing back and forth. I believe are there any similar programs in other states? So we do also have, there are a lot of curricula out there on dating violence prevention, exactly similar to this program that I know of. There are not. As Callie was mentioning, we have funding for these 4 states right now, but we're all ears if you have other opportunities to discuss, bringing it to your community. But on Break the Cycle's end, we do have a DVD curriculum called Ending Violence that is available through Respect Works, and either in email or right now somebody could chat that information. But it's not web-based like this, and it doesn't really follow peers leading the conversations, but that doesn't mean that you can't frame it that way in your community. And there's also other great organizations that have similar prevention type work. But this is kind of new and innovative. Our approach to have a web app is something new and something we're really excited about. But if you're not in these 4 states, you can always feel free to email me and discuss how to bring pop culture into your discussions. I'm happy to meet with anybody to share some of these resources. Okay, so as far as staff development, are there sessions to teach? I lost it again, but I believe I caught that. Are there opportunities for staff training to know how to implement the curriculum? There are opportunities, and what we can do is we trained our institute members. So if you're in a neighbor community with one of the people that participated in the institutes, we can have you work with the service provider organization, but we can also discuss, I know we may not have the resources, but doing webinars may also be a possibility. Yeah, same thing goes for peer leader training. And okay, I think that's all the questions I saw. Callie, did I miss any in the private chat?
There were no more that I received.
Tina, do you want to say anything wrapping up the program, or if there are any questions that?
Yes, I would just add, we're going to be, this is Christina, I'm the Director of Love is Respect. We are going to be out in the community in Illinois, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and Texas, doing some events in the coming year, this year, 2014, and we'll be publishing a schedule of those on the Start Talking website and can follow up with that. So if you're interested in training, some of those events will be open to the public, so you'll have a chance to come out and meet us and talk some more about the curriculum. So stay tuned for that schedule. And I just want to thank everybody for participating. I think you can tell how excited we are about this curriculum. Hopefully you can see what a great resource it is and how amazing it is that Blue Cross and Blue Shield has supported it and really sponsored it for these 4 states. We're really excited, and just thank you for your participation.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for participating today. Jasmine, thank you for a wonderful presentation. We certainly appreciate everyone's participation, and we will be closing out the session. Thank you.
All conference hosts have hung up. This conference is over. Thank you.